Hello everybody and welcome back. And I'm taking a break for a couple of weeks from my BECMI campaign and our little party of adventurers to play this. And this is my own little game. I called it Far and Beyond, and the title is to convey that sort of sense of the lack of confinement and the opportunity for escapism that is very attractive with this genre of game. It is inspired, as always, like BECMI from the 1980s, and the format is taken from these choose your own adventure books. Look how old this one is, well used. This was also a format that TSR used in their D&D work because they produced a couple of standalone choose your own adventure books, which I think included an invisible ink pen. It was also inspired by a board game called Hero Quest. I never owned Hero Quest. It was quite an expensive game, but I did have a friend who had a copy and I played it a couple of times. And if you don't know what Hero Quest is, it was a board game and it was laid out with several rooms, and there were adventure cards that told you which rooms were used, which corridors were blocked, and where to place doors. So the same template could produce a variety of different avenues and paths to create a variety of dungeon floor plans. Both of these inspirations will be featured in this. So what exactly is the format here? And it is a PDF document, which is about 60 pages long. That might seem a lot, but the good thing is if you were to play it, you don't have to print everything. In fact, I would say it's only really necessary to print 13 of those pages, and it would be advisable to print 5 or 6 more. In fact, if you look at this text, you'll see it's filled with paragraphs which are numbered, much like Choose Your Own Adventures. And I have played this both with a printed format like this and with a PDF viewer on a laptop, and I will have to say that the laptop is much easier. The paragraph numbers have got underscores on either side, so if you want to search for the exact paragraph reference, you can use the underscore in the search box and it takes you straight to it. So in many ways, the bulk of this document, which is 30 pages, you don't need to print at all. The rules are just 3 pages long. Ignore my green ink. I'm proofreading it again. And the reason the rules are only 3 pages long is because this is not a complex game. It does, however, have enough choice and strategy for it to have a certain complexity and a certain replay value. It also means it is child friendly, which to me is important. I think it's important that children play games, not just for their social skills, but for their mathematical and strategy skills and their comprehension. You can play it solo. The whole thing has been set up for solo play, but as I play through it, it should become apparent that the person with the text can become the dungeon master and up to 4 other people can make the choices. So it can become a multiplayer game for 1 DM and 4 players. I don't want to go over the rules too much, I'll make them apparent as we play. So I'll put this to one side. This is a main coloured map. If you have access to a colour printer, maybe in your work, you could print off this. If you don't have access to a colour printer, there are black and white versions which are more ink friendly. There are lots of little cards in the game. These are potion cards, for example. These are spell cards. They come in a sheet like this. But if you don't want to print those, you can instead print what I call a crib sheet, which gives you a summary of them. And here is a summary of what the potions do. There are sheets that you will have to print. And these sheets form the playing area, effectively the board, and they are segments of caves. They look like this. for example. So as you play the game, you'll be told to begin with one cave and then you'll be told to add more caves onto it. And you slot them together like that and you create a cave network. There are also rooms for dungeons set in buildings. These look quite worn. I think I will just begin playing. There are 6 characters you can choose from. There is a barbarian, a fighter, a cleric, a mage, a thief, and a dwarf, and you choose 4 of the 6 of those. They each have their different playing styles, and I am going to choose our barbarian, a dwarf, a mage, and a cleric. And I have filled in their basic stats according to the rules given here. Right. The stats that you will probably use the most are the combat dice, the attack and the defense dice, and the health. These other stats, your skill stats, they're used to make a roll. So you will be asked to make a skill roll, and it might be a strength roll or an agility roll, and you have to throw 2 dice and score the skill or less to succeed. The rest, the combat dice, are how many dice you attack with. So a dwarf has 3. And the defense dice are used for when you are attacked. Our dwarf has 4. The barbarian, the dwarf, the fighter, and the thief are relatively easy to set up. The mage and the cleric have choices to make in their spells, so I shall set up my mage. I have set up my mage by choosing his spells. Mages can cast 5 spells per day from the elemental schools of earth, air, fire, and water, and a mage will choose 1 spell from at least 3 of these schools, plus a 4th spell from any school of their choice. So that is a choice of 4 different spells. These are their spells for the rest of the adventure, so choose carefully. A mage can specialise in one of these elements. That has bonuses and restrictions. The bonus is they get to cast an extra spell per day, and they get to choose an extra spell from their chosen school. I have chosen an air mage, so I chose an extra air spell. The other benefit is that the spell descriptions give bonuses to the elemental mage, which makes the spells a bit more powerful if cast by a mage who specialises in that element. So for example, there's a blindness spell which will last for 1 combat turn, and for an air mage that lasts for 2 combat turns. The disadvantage is each elemental school has an opposite, and a specialist mage can't cast spells from the opposite element, and the opposite element of air is earth, so these earth spells are prohibited for my air mage. The other spells I've chosen are Sunbeam, which is an air spell which does damage against the undead. I've chosen Fire Bullet, which is a fire spell which acts as a projectile. I've chosen as a water spell Icicle, which is a projectile, and I've chosen Charm, which is an air spell which can create an ally from an enemy. For the cleric, there are 3 faith realms. These are the realms of mind, body, and spirit. And much like the mage, the cleric can cast 4 spells per day and will choose a spell from each of the realms plus 1 extra. Again, a cleric can specialise, and the advantage is she gets to cast an extra spell per day and choose an extra spell from the realm that she's specialised in. So I have chosen a mind cleric. I've chosen the spells Minor Healing, Simple Smite, Blessing, Divine Bolt, and I chose my specialist mind spell, which is Clarity, and that is a sort of anti-charm spell. That is the advantage of specialising. The disadvantage is a specialist cleric is limited to weapons choices, so a mind cleric can only use a mace and a sling. A general cleric who hasn't specialised can use any weapon. A body cleric can use warhammers and slings, and a spirit cleric can use any one-handed weapon but no ranged weapons. So my cleric will be using maces and slings. My barbarian comes with his own inbuilt ability, and that's Barbarian Rage, which he can use for 1 battle per day, and he gets +2 attack dice, but -1 defense dice, and it lasts until there are no enemies within his sight. My dwarf has an ability called Cleave, which if he throws 3 attack dice, and 2 of them are 6s, which didn't happen there, then he does more damage. If he is using 4 attack dice, and he throws 3 6s, he does more damage. Right, I have given my spell cards to my mage and cleric, and you can see that the character sheets have a little fold at the bottom, which I have taped on either side, and that acts as a kind of wallet to keep things secure. Again, there is a crib sheet if you don't want to print the cards, but lots of people, and not just children, like these kind of things. This is also where you will store any potion cards that you find. So, with my party all set up, you will have noticed that my dwarf has his attack and defense dice filled in, and my barbarian hasn't. I will show you how to fill that in, depending on the weapons and armor that you buy. Let's get on with the adventure. So, this is how it begins. It's as fine a spring morning as you could wish for. The sun is rising just over the eastern lands, the sky is a pale blue, and there is still a chill left over from a cold, starry night. You walk along a lane that winds its way through farmers' fields. The land westward rises to bald, stony hills and then to high mountains beyond, glowing pink in the early light. Your destination is the village of Hampton. It's nowhere special, but it has a good inn and it's on the edge of civilized land. Beyond it lies wilderness, lands with strange caves and creatures and ruins of long lost peoples and kingdoms. Adventure awaits. For brevity, I shall skip some of this. You're told that Hampton has everything you would expect from a small village. It has a large inn, it has a temple, it has a smithy, and it's got a little shop with a sign that says Polly's Potions. It has a market square with a well, and it has somebody called Sam selling magical scrolls from a chest. There is also a voice calling out, "Treasure map. I've got a treasure map to sell you." The seller is a young lad, scrawny and in rags. He's holding up something in his hand. You can't believe your luck. A treasure map already? A woman passing by stops and says, "What is it today, Skinny Jim? Treasure maps? Hold it up and let's have a look." She snorts as the boy unfurls a square of dirty linen. Ha, it's just a rag with stains on it. If you want to earn some bread, go do something useful. Until then, run off and stop being a pest. You realise that it's just some urchin trying to make a coin. Oh well, no treasure. Disappointed, you go into the inn. You want to rent a room, eat, and then, well, what exactly? The bar inside the Shaggy Dog has a low ceiling. It's rather gloomy, lit by sunbeams coming through small windows. The innkeeper is talking to the only other customer. You catch a few words, and it seems, from all the gesturing, that he's giving the fellow directions to somewhere. The fellow thanks him and turns to leave. He's an old, craggy man, slightly stooped, wearing a long, dirty coat. He walks on a crutch, and you see, as he passes, that one leg ends in a stump of wood. Yet he is more agile than you would think. He nods at you as he hastens on his way to the door. You rent a room. It costs 1 gold piece each. The innkeeper shows you upstairs. There's a midday meal included in the price. We do a good feed, he says with some pride, but that's not for a while yet. He hands you a heavy iron key and leaves you to it. Your room has 4 beds with straw mattresses and little else. Some of you test the beds, not bad. Some of you look out the little window to the view of the hills and the mountains. This is it, you think, though what it is, you have little idea. It's obvious you don't have much equipment. Together, you have 250 gold coins. You all decide it would be best to buy things in Hampton before setting off into the wild beyond. You make your way outside. All is as before, though you notice the one-legged fellow is talking to Skinny Jim. He's showing an interest in the so-called treasure map. He seems to be humouring the young lad. "Why, this is the finest treasure map I've ever seen. You shouldn't be selling this for 1 gold piece. I'd give you 5. though alas, I don't have that much money on me. I know where I can get them cash if you don't mind coming with me. And we're told that there's a page for shopping in Hampton. We can either go to the blacksmith's, read 26, go to Polly's Potions, read 14, or check out the peddler, Sam Scrolls, read 23. And I think we'll go to the blacksmith first. You approach the blacksmith and ask to see his wares. He's more than delighted to have customers. He ushers you into his shop. He's very enthusiastic to sell you something and encourages you to try things on, even if you have no interest in buying them. He adjusts straps and buckles to make sure everything fits perfectly. He demonstrates the fine balance of his swords by using them to juggle with. You don't really have time for this, but when you're in the shop of a man the size of a cart horse who wields red-hot hammers and juggles swords, you don't really have many options. Eventually, you're able to ask simply, how much do things cost? You make your choices from the Hampton store sheet. After what seems like an age, you are back outside. Right, I've got 250 gold to spend. I'm going to outfit my barbarian. My barbarian does not wear armor, but he can wear a helmet, so that's 10 gold pieces. So I'm down to 240. And that will increase his defense dice by 1, so his defense dice is now 2. He also wields a two-handed sword or two-handed axe. I'm going to buy a two-handed sword, and that is 30 gold pieces. I'm down to 210. And a two-handed sword will increase his attack dice by 2, so his attack dice are now 4. I won't buy him a bow until I see how much money I have left. That is my barbarian. I will write helmet and two-handed sword. The other advantage of two-handed weapons is they can fight on all surrounding 8 squares, whereas one-handed weapons can only fight on the 4 orthogonal squares. My dwarf, well, I filled in his attack and defense dice before recording. I shall buy him a one-handed axe at 22 gold pieces and 188, and I shall buy him plate mail, which is 1 extra defense, a helmet for another defense, and a shield for a third one, so he has 4 defense dice, and the helmet is 10, the shield is 20, and the plate mail armor is 30, so I'm down to 128. The mage, I will buy a sling and some sling stones. So a sling is 5 gold pieces, that's 123. My cleric is limited to chainmail armor and a shield, no helmet and a sling and a mace. So I will buy the chainmail, that's 25, down to 98. Another shield, I'm down to 78, and a mace, that's 22, I'm down to 56. And a sling, another 5, I'm down to 51. So when I look at her attack dice and defense dice, she has got 2 attack dice, 1 as standard plus 1 for her mace, and she has 3 defense dice, 1 for her shield and 1 for her armor. So as is typical in these games, a cleric can also step in and fight as well as cast spells. Right, we've got 51 gold pieces left. Let's leave the blacksmith and go over to Polly's Potions to see what is there. Back at the text, if you have not been to Polly's Potions, you can decide to pay a visit, read 14. You cross the village square to a tumble-down shop. There is barely room for all of you to make it inside the small apothecary. Most of the space is taken up with a huge man with hairy arms. He could be the blacksmith's brother, only larger. There are many strange smells, but the strongest one is familiar, though you can't quite place it. Are you Polly? You ask the huge owner gingerly. No, he replies in a matter-of-fact way. What if we want to buy some potions? Polly's the missus, I'll call her. He shouts through a door behind him. Soon Polly appears. She doesn't seem too steady on her feet and her eyes aren't fully focused. You've seen this look before and it reminds you of the smell. Moonshine, that's what it is. You ask her what potions she has. She can't quite remember, so she has to find each one on the shelves, which are very disorganised. Eventually you get to choose some. There is a random tables section for finding random treasure, and the randoms potion table gives you the descriptions of the potions as well as potion descriptions being written on the little potion cards. I think at least one potion of healing would be a good idea, so I'll go for that, and that's 10 gold pieces. I'm down to 41. And I'll give the potion of healing to my barbarian, and so I shall slip this little potion of healing into his little wallet, like so. Okay, we'll go to Sam's scrolls. If you have not been to the blacksmith, you decide to pay a visit, read 26, we have, or check out the peddler, Sam's scrolls, read 23. You walk over the village square to where an old man is sitting on a crooked three-legged stool. In front of him is a small casket opened that is stuffed with rolled up paper scrolls. Magic scrolls from across the realms, he says. What can an honest trader sell you for an honest coin? What have you got, you ask? Well, that depends on where my travels takes me, he replies. I come and go all the time and bring what I can find. What you see is what I have. Use the store sheet. If we look at Sam's scrolls, there are 3 columns, A, B, C, and he only ever has 4 scrolls from each column. So I will roll dice for column A. And he's got 2 scrolls of greasy palms, 1 scroll of golette, and 1 scroll of flame fingers. I shall make a quick note of that. In column B, he has a water of life scroll, he has a ray of blindness, he's got nothing, and a charm. And in column C, he has a fire spell called Ashes and Embers. He's got Feet of Clay, Sunbeam, and Instant Door. I'm sure we'll find the descriptions of these spells later on in the game, but do any of them seem suitable? Greasy Palms increases someone's agility for 5 turns. That can help if you have to make an agility roll. Instant Door creates a door in any vertical wall for a very short time. That could help. Sunbeam I have as a spell. Water of Life, it creates a healing potion. And again, if you're a water mage, it becomes a better healing potion. A golette is a very small golem, and it is a very low-leveled summoned creature, but it can be handy. I think I'll actually buy the scroll of golette. Now Sam's scrolls cost 15 each, so we're down to 26. And I shall put the golette scroll into my mage's wallet, like so. And as a note, golette, that's an earth spell. My air mage can't cast earth spells, but you can from a scroll. So scrolls can be cast by any elemental mage. Finally, we've finished shopping. If you've bought all you need, turn to 38. What an ordeal. You have bought all that you need, and it took a lot longer than you thought. Most of the morning has gone. You're ready for the offer of a good meal at the Shaggy Dog, but as you step out onto the village square, there is a commotion and a scream. 2 of the villagers are holding up Skinny Jim. His legs are sagging, but more shocking, his shirt is soaked in blood. You hasten forward to the crowd. Do you think bad urchins let the locals handle it and return to the inn? Read 49. If you have a healer in your party, you can offer to use a healing spell. Read 59. If you have a healing potion, offer it. Read 18. Or if you have 10 gold, offer to carry the boy to the temple for some healing. Well, our cleric has a healing spell called Minor Healing. She can cast 5 spells per day. Will we cast it, or will we carry Skinny Jim to the temple? Well, we might need the healing spell for ourselves, so we'll carry the boy to the temple and offer to pay. Paragraph 30. You take the boy and carry him to the temple where the priest can heal him. A villager calls after you. Don't let that crook rob you. You're not sure if he means the boy or the priest. You lay the boy on a bench inside the temple. The priest peels back the bloody shirt and tuts. Dear me, what a mess. It'll take 10 gold to clear this up. But as it's a kid, I'll take 5. You pay the money, the priest says a prayer, and the boy's bleeding stops. He opens his eyes, but he's clearly weak. With difficulty, he speaks to you. Deduct 5 gold, read 8, so we're down to 21 gold. You ask Skinny Jim who stabbed him. He says he followed a man with one leg to an old sawmill out of town. There was a promise of 5 gold coins for his treasure map. When we reached the mill, there was 3 other folk there. They didn't look too friendly. The one-legged man gave me the gold and I gave him the map. And then, well, I really don't know what happened next. I woke up lying half in the river behind the mill and my head aches. You tell Skinny Jim he's made of strong stuff and you ask him for directions to this old sawmill. The boy asks, are you going to seek his revenge? Though he uses a lot of impressive cuss words. You say that you are. Skinny Jim reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small bottle. On the way up to the mill, I got itchy fingers. The old man had a big coat with open pockets. I found this on him. You should have it. It is a small bottle. Use the random potions table to see which potion Skinny Jim gives you. You say farewell to Skinny Jim and set off in the direction of the old sawmill. Read 53. Well, I'm going to use the random potions table. I'm going to roll 2 dice. That's 5. That's a potion of fire resistance. This potion reduces any fire damage by 1 point for the next 4 turns. And I will give that to my dwarf. As barbarians have a natural +1 resistance to fire and cold. Right, read 53. And 53 says use the sawmill map. Right, I'll get that. Here we are at the sawmill. These are our characters. If you have your own miniatures, of course, you should use them. But if you don't have any miniatures, there are pages of these little fold-up characters that you can use. And it's quite simple. You cut them out in a long strip and then you just fold them up and glue them at the bottom. The enemies are also numbered, so it helps you keep track of who has taken what damage. And if you want a little pro tip on how to fold things neatly, cut these out with a craft knife. But before you do any cutting, take the opposite side of the craft knife and with a ruler scratch along the fold lines. And that way, when it comes to folding paper, you get a nice neat fold. You make your way along the lane out of Hampton towards the old sawmill. Every so often you see a dark red splat of Skinny Jim's blood. He had to run a fair distance. Urchins clearly grow up tough. You have been told to look for a path through the trees on the right that leads to the river. You feel lucky when you find it, as it has become very overgrown with bushes. You push past leaves and branches for some distance until you hear the sound of a river. Beyond the trees, you see the roof of a building up ahead. Slowing down and treading quietly, you approach the sawmill. There is no one outside, but you can hear voices from within. There is a door. Do you just make for the door and burst inside? Read 65. Send your most agile character to sneak around the back to check things out. Read 27. I think we're going to send our most agile character, and that is our mage with an agility of 7. So we will read 27. You sneak around the western wall of the sawmill. Nature has grown back in the years since the place was abandoned. You pick your way through the bushes, trying to make as little noise as possible. You get halfway around, move to point X. When you're about to step on a large dry branch, make an agility roll on 2 dice with the -2 bonus. Since you're trying to roll low, your agility score or less, bonuses are negatives. Do you make your agility score or less? What is the result? Well, we need to throw a 7 or less, and we have a -2 bonus. That's 8. -2 is 6. Yes, we do make it. If you fail, read 76. If you succeed, you breathe a sigh of relief. You can continue around to the far side of the mill, point Y, read 5, or return to the party. I think I'm going to go to point Y and read 5. You reach the corner of the sawmill, making sure to step as quietly as a mouse. You see the river below, running fast and deep. There is a boat hitched to a post on the riverbank. There is a small vacant window high up in the wall. To your left is a broken wall that, if you climbed, you could look inside the mill and look through the window, or return to your party. We'll look through the window, read 57. The rough wall has many footholds and it's easy to climb. You look through the window into the old building. The light is low. You see 4 characters standing around a large table. Make a search roll by rolling 2 dice and getting your search score or less. Right, my mage's search score is 6. He fails. If you succeed, you can see more clearly, read 86. If you fail, there is nothing more you can tell about the 4 people. You decide to return to your party, read 11. Well, we failed. So you must climb down again. Make an agility roll. If you did not step on the branch at point X, you get a -2 bonus. We didn't step on the branch. If you did step on the branch, you get a +1 penalty. Right, so we have to make 7 or less, and we get another -2 bonus. Ah yes, we make that easily. Do you succeed? Yes, read 32. Of course, you'll never know what happened if you failed. You nimbly climb down the wall and return to your friends, reporting all that you saw. You realise that you have surprise on the ruffians. Plan your attack before bursting through the door. You get initiative and go first. The fight is on. Turn to 21. You burst into the sawmill on squares F5, F6, G5, G6, so we are here. I don't know if you can see it, but there are grid references here. Get your dice ready for your first fight. The position of the enemies depends on whether they were alerted to your presence. If they did not know you were coming, there are 4 enemies positioned as such. The one-legged man is on B2, 2 fighters at C5 just here, and D2. And a mage at B4. There is also a table added to the middle of the room, C3 to E4. When you're given a piece of furniture like this, you are given the opposing corners as coordinates, so I should have placed that first, and there around the table. Okay, if things had gone differently, they would be in different positions. Well, I won't tell you what would happen. Who goes first? Was initiative decided by your choices mentioned in the text? And yes, it was. We were told we get initiative. Unlike D&D, where you roll initiative for every combat turn, this is simpler. Whoever wins initiative goes first for the whole combat. Simply turn and turn about, and we get first turn. So there is a script below to tell how the characters work. The simplest scripts belong to the fighters. Their priority is to attack the nearest person. The mage has a more complex script because she has a choice of spells which she will cast in a certain order and at certain targets. So we're told the mage is an air mage, so any air spells we need to take into account that she will get a bonus. It's our go. So we have a barbarian, a dwarf, a cleric and a mage. And I'm going to scratch down their health, and I will also mark the health of Bandit 1, Bandit 2 and the Mage, and that is, the Mage has 4 and the Bandits have 7 each. And this is turn 1, so I'm going to keep a little tally of each turn, and certain spells have a duration, so I'll make a little note of which turn the spell was cast on and when it runs out. And the other thing is, you can choose any party order for your character actions each turn. So my barbarian and dwarf could move first this turn, and my mage and cleric could act first the next turn. I'm keeping it simple here. Also, in each turn, you're allowed 1 move and 1 act. And actions are things like attacking, casting a spell, or drinking a potion. So let's get started. My mage is also an air mage, and he will cast Ray of Blindness. A beam of light shines into the target's eyes, blinding them for 1 turn. They can only see the adjacent squares. Their attack and defense dice are reduced by 3, and they suffer +3 penalties to agility rolls. An agility roll can be made to dodge the ray with the +1 penalty. Air Mage gets a bonus, so the duration is 2 turns. So he's got 6 spells for today. My cleric is 5. So he's going to cast Ray of Blindness into the eyes of the mage. And if I look at the mage's agility, it's 7. Can she roll 7 or less with a +1 penalty? And she fails. So I'm going to mark Ray of Blindness as cast on this turn, and it lasts until turn 2 because of the air mage bonus. She's out of action for 2 rounds. That's good. Always take out the mage. My dwarf can move a certain number of squares, which is 5. Given the small size of these playing areas, that tends not to be a problem. You have to move on the orthogonal squares, but you're allowed 1 diagonal, so he can move 1, 2, 3, and be here. And he is going to attack. The bandits get 2 attack dice and 2 defense dice, and my dwarf gets 3 attack dice and 4 defense dice. I've got lots of coloured dice, so I will use green for the enemies and red for the party. Now in order to hit, you need to roll a 4, 5 or 6, and for the enemies to defend, they need to roll a 1. For the party to defend, they need to roll a 1 or a 2, so the party has a slight advantage. I forgot my cleric, I'll do her next, but this is my dwarf's fight. And he fails to hit, so it doesn't matter that the bandit failed to defend. My cleric is going to cast Simple Smite, and Simple Smite will stun a target for 1 turn, and while they're stunned they have no defense dice and they fail agility rolls, but the target can make a will roll to avoid being stunned, so she is going to cast Simple Smite on bandit number 1. Now bandit number 1 needs to make a will roll, and his will is 6, and he gets a +2 penalty. So he fails to roll 6 or less, so he is stunned for this turn, so he gets no defense dice. So my barbarian has got 4 attack dice, and he hits twice. Bandit number 1 is on 5 hit points. Their turn. The mage can't do anything for this turn and the next turn, and the script tells us the one-legged man swigs a potion of invisibility and disappears. Where did he go? You don't know. Round number 2, and we still get initiative. What can my mage do next? Well, my mage is going to cast Icicle. An icicle is like a javelin made of ice. That's a water spell. He doesn't get any bonuses, but Icicle does a large amount of damage, but it takes 2 turns to enact, 1 turn to cast the spell, and 1 turn to throw the icicle. And he also needs to make an agility roll to hit the target. A water mage gets a bonus to an agility roll. There is also a water mage spell that gives you a bonus to your agility score. So if you were a water mage, you could cast Greasy Palms, get a +2 bonus to your agility, cast Icicle, and get a -1 bonus to your agility roll. So added together, that's an extra 3. So this Icicle spell becomes much more powerful in the hands of a water mage. He is not a water mage, so he will cast Icicle. That's another spell knocked off, and I'm going to make a note that he has cast it. I don't think I chose my cleric spells very well. I could try another smite on this character to see if he's stunned for another turn. So can he make his will roll with the +2 penalty? And he does. So my cleric has cast Smite. It failed. Let's get on to Dwarf. He's got 3 attack dice, and this character has 2 defense dice. Ah, I forgot this combat round 1. My Dwarf has 4 defense dice, and this character has 2 attack dice. And he hits both, but my Dwarf defends twice, so no damage is done. Right, now we're on to round number 2. My mage and cleric have cast their spells. My dwarf is going to attack this guy. He hits twice and the bandit defends once, so bandit 2 is on 6. My barbarian is going to attack his enemy. He hits twice and the bandit fails, so that bandit is on 3. Alright. You do have to keep a lot of notes when you're playing combat solo, who has gone and who hasn't gone, and just making little check marks helps. It's their go. My heavily defended dwarf is attacked by someone who hits once and my dwarf defends once. My barbarian is not so defended, he only has 2 defense dice. And he gets hit once and fails to defend, so he is on 7. It's round number 3. The mage did nothing because she was blinded for 2 turns. Right, it's our go. my mage is going to throw his icicle at the enemy mage. He needs to make an agility roll, which is a 7 or less. If he succeeds, the target takes 5 damage. That's a good lot of damage. If he fails, it only takes 2. And he makes his agility roll, so the enemy mage takes 5 points of damage. She only had 4, she's out of it. My cleric is going to 1, 2, 3. She's going to weigh in on the fight. She's got 2 attack dice, and the bandit has 2 defense dice. She misses both times. My dwarf hits twice, the bandit fails, so the bandit is on 4. My barbarian hits once, the bandit defends once, so no good there. Right, there go. Bandit 2 is on my dwarf. And he hits twice, my dwarf defends once, he is down to 7. Bandit 1 hits once, my barbarian defends once, so no change there. That was round number 3. Round number 4, I think my mage is going to cast another ray of blindness into the eyes of the bandit that is on the dwarf. This bandit needs to make an agility roll, which is 6 or less with a +1 penalty. He makes the roll, so my mage has lost another spell. He's cast 3, so he has 3 left. My cleric is just going to attack. And she fails to hit. My dwarf is going to attack. He fails to hit. And my barbarian is going to attack. And he hits twice, and that bandit is on 1 hit point. It's their go. This one attacks my dwarf. Hits once, my dwarf defends once. This one attacks my barbarian. He fails to hit. So we're already on to round number 5. My mage is going to try and cast Ray of Blindness again. And this time the bandit fails to make a saving throw, so he has no defense dice for this turn. My cleric is just going to try and bash. She hits twice, the bandit defends once. That bandit 1 is dead. Okay. Now my barbarian can move, but does he have enough movement to get around the table? His movement is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, he can. So he is going to have a go on this chap. He hits twice, the bandit doesn't defend, bandit is on 2. And my dwarf, he hits once, the bandit defends once. Right. It's the bandit's turn. And he hits once, my dwarf defends once. We're on round number 6. I think I'll save spells, so my cleric can't get round in time to attack. So I will do my dwarf, who hits once, the bandit defends once. I'll do my barbarian, 1, 2, 3, who hits 3 times, and the bandit fails to defend. He is dead. If you survive, read 39. 39. If some of your party members were killed, you can take them to the temple to resurrect them, but you probably won't have enough gold at the moment to afford it. What do you do then? You could start over, or you could store their body in the temple and continue to adventure without them, hoping to find enough gold later on to pay for their return. Did you all survive? Well done. But what happened to the one-legged man? He vanished, probably swigged a potion of invisibility. You hurry outside and look around the building. By the riverbank, you see the marks of a small boat that was dragged into the water. Sure enough, when you look downstream, there is a boat with 2 oars seemingly rowing by themselves. He got away. You return to the mill and look around. There is a purse of 10 gold pieces left on the table. You add that to your stash. That bumps our gold up to 31. There are piles of rubble and broken mill machinery. It is of no interest, but under the window lies the treasure map. The old man clearly dropped it. You look up at the window and wonder if that was his escape route. A high climb for an old man with 1 leg, you think. You are broken, bruised and short of magic. You are also hungry. You decide to return to the Shaggy Dog Inn for your meal. As you eat, you can pore over this dirty rag, this treasure map, to see why it was so important. You also have some more gold you may want to spend. Read 3. Well, I shall leave it here for today, and we will read the treasure map next time. I'll see you then.